Welcome to another Light Reading Podcast. My name is Phil Harvey, and congratulations, you have made it to the end of the week. This is the Notebook Dump edition of the Light Reading Podcast, and joining me today are Nicole Ferraro, Kelsey Zeiser, Jeff Baumgartner, and Mike Dano. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hey, Phil. And
Hello,
everybody.
plant.
Kelsey. Oh, there she is. Okay, sorry. Oh, wait. Oh, no, I missed her. Anyway.
Aw, peekaboo. We see you.
We'll just keep this nonsense up for our people listening on audio only, because they'll be very frustrated. But anyway, we're here to talk about what's happened during the past week and actually the past 2 weeks if we want to, because we didn't do this last week. We were all in various places and super busy and stuff like that. One of the most popular stories this past month has been Ian Morris's coverage of Vodafone moving to a 5G standalone network, so a real proper 5G network. And I think it's a good piece for everybody to read if you're out there, because it catches some of the push and pull that carrier execs are having while they're evolving their networks. They want to modernize, but the back office software isn't always up to the task. They want to be more energy efficient, but they also want to move to the cloud, and that means more edge locations, and that means more stuff out there that's consuming power and space. And so there's a bunch of different decisions that carriers have to make along the way. And of course, nothing is, a slam dunk. It all kind of depends on what network they're coming from and where they're going to, and then how many little stumbling blocks are on the way. So please do check that piece out. And now we will go around the horn and see what else has been happening out there. Nicole, let's start with you.
Sure. So this week, the big thing on my radar was Gigi Sohn's third, count 'em, 3, Senate hearing for FCC commissioner, and it took place on Valentine's Day, and it was appropriately a love fest. Just kidding. It was horrible. It was 3 hours of the same crazy attacks from the Republicans on the panel that she has dealt with for the past 2 hearings, followed by, statements from Ted Cruz and John Thune that she's unfit and a partisan hack and the devil incarnate, basically. I thought
exciting on the FCC, wouldn't it? I mean,
that would, to have I guess we've had a devil incarnate before. No names mentioned. Yeah. So she did attempt. I don't know if it was discussed maybe with some on the panel to use as her real selling point that she could, if confirmed soon, help fix the FCC maps that everyone is up in arms about that need to be fixed before June 30th when the NTIA allocates BEAD funding. And she made the point that if she isn't confirmed, period, no one is going to be confirmed in time for that 5th seat before that map gets finished ahead of the BEAD allocation. I thought it was a smart strategy, given that senators on both sides of the aisle have gone on the record to talk about how important it is to fix those maps, but it didn't seem to move the Republicans on the committee. They seemed pretty dug into not voting for her. So I think, we'll see. I guess we'll see if she makes it out of committee. Some of the Republicans did try to bring up comments she made that would have offended Senator Joe Manchin, a Democrat, and Senator Kirsten Sinema, a former Democrat, now independent. So I assume they were trying to get them to vote against getting her out of committee. We will see what happens based on, some chattering in the industry. People are still optimistic that she will get confirmed, but my goodness, what a time.
Yeah, it's a lot for one single FCC commissioner to have to put up with, especially given their, I'm going to say the relatively minor impact that the FCC is likely to have through the rest of Biden's term anyway.
Yeah. Right. Well, I mean, and it should be pointed out, and she pointed this out during the hearing, that a lot of the attacks against her have been funded by and tied to large telco lobbyists that don't want to be regulated. And she, in her opening statement, said that regulated entities shouldn't choose their regulators. So she definitely tried to hammer that home. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
Hey, Phil, is this the time when we get to talk about net neutrality? Should we do that now? Do we have enough time for that?
and the history of it all too. Yeah,
I mean, we can. I'm going to go lay down. So you
It's like they're just not up for a bit.
Part 6.
I would love for Mike to talk a little bit about net neutrality.
Clear our schedules and do that.
I'm going to vote against that. In committee, out of committee, everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, did they at least? Was that a big topic of conversation during this latest hearing, Nicole? Or not?
It came up in the same way that it's come up in other hearings, and she has repeatedly made the point that she'd prefer for Congress to deal with it because otherwise it's just going to go to the courts and it's going to come back to Congress anyway. So it's not. Like, and she also tried, I thought this was a funny angle that she took, that like she can't come in and make all of the decisions for the FCC. There's a process. I thought that was a funny, point to try to make to senators who have the same sort of situation, and get called out for their extreme views when they're running as well. But whatever. But she's right. She can't just come in and say net neutrality is back or whatever. She doesn't have that power. But yes, it was a topic, but not, it wasn't the focus. The focus was that she's a, liberal radical who hates Donald Trump and hates America and hates the police.
Wow. That's busy.
Yeah. All things that have a huge bearing on her ability to be
exactly
FCC.
To regulate maps and shit. Yeah.
I did appreciate that she caught herself in her opening statement referencing that she's from Long Island and caught herself saying Long Island, which is also how I say Long Island. So, that just won her more points with me.
Right.
And that's it.
Got to be able to say it correctly. Speaking of things said correctly, Kelsey went to an event in Raleigh last week. Is that what's in your notebook this week, perhaps?
Yeah. And just real quick on the topic of things said correctly, I was watching the Puppy Bowl ahead of the Super Bowl, as one does, and they're like, and this dog is a rescue from Mabin, North Carolina, and I was like, it's Mebin. Mabin. So,
and I bet the dog was
if anyone from Animal Planet is watching, y'all might want to look up your cities before.
That's right. Do your research, Animal Planet people.
But unrelated to the Puppy Bowl, I went to the Fiber Broadband Association. They had a regional Connect event in Raleigh this past week, which was nice to go to an event that was only 10 minutes from my house. I think I was like the most local person there, so that was pretty cool. Nokia had a little cocktail hour the night before, and they showed me some demos with Broadband Money, who Nicole spoke with, about some of the maps that they're developing and trying to make it easier for states to apply for BEAD funding and work on their different grants. So during the Connect event, they talked a lot about what was going on in North Carolina specifically, and some initiatives that Governor Roy Cooper is working on. Nate Denny with the North Carolina Department of Information Technology Division spoke, and he talked about how, Governor Cooper might add to the Affordable Connectivity Program and why North Carolina is really concerned with affordability and digital equity. For example, last July, they awarded $23 million in grants to 12 counties in North Carolina. So that's about 7,000 households and 374 businesses to receive high-speed internet. So it was interesting just to hear specifically for the state that I'm in, what they're working on in terms of broadband affordability. And there was a lot of discussion, of course, about how states are going to handle applying for BEAD funding, what that'll look like. And everybody's still trying to figure it out, pretty much, is what I gathered. Of course, they said North Carolina's doing a great job, but...
49 the rest of you, get your act together. Yeah.
Right, really.
I think it is smart for states to have events or have public, more of a public kind of put themselves out there a bit to show that they do actually have a plan for whenever they get funding,
Yeah.
and in kind of a public discussion about, like a set of priorities, a set of tangible goals and things like that. Because, the funding part, the application part is, it's going to take longer than we think. It's going to be a bit of a mess and so on and so forth. But it would be nice for the citizens to actually know that something's on the way, or, to have something to look forward to.
Well, that reminds me, actually, I just got something from Colorado, like a mapping hub or something. I don't know. There was something in the email box I need to look back to, but it just reminded me of, a little bit of outreach going on.
Yeah, if I could add a little bit of context from the BEAD program, what North Carolina is spending, and I'm sure what Colorado is spending on that map thing, are their BEAD planning funds. So every state was entitled to up to $5 million from the BEAD program in planning funds once they submitted their letter of intent to the NTIA that they were going to participate in BEAD. So every state got like roughly $5 million before the end of last year to use on stuff like mapping and other stuff that's going to get them ready to basically roll out their BEAD plans in the coming year or so.
Right. It reminds me of Office Space. You remember that movie? And they had the whiteboard, and it said "planning to plan" was,
That's it.
Yeah. We're doing
That's
a
what
great
it kind
job.
of reminds me of. I mean, it's, I don't know if it's the same thing, but
It is.
It's the
Pretty
same,
much.
yeah.
It's close enough. Hey, Jeff, let's stick with you.
Okay.
Since you're covering the cable beat, obviously there's broadband related news in your notebook. I'm sure.
The thing I was focused on lately is maybe not so much technology oriented, but something in the world of pricing and packaging and what some of the operators are doing. And in line with this new, Comcast is doing this new Xfinity 10G network campaign that they kicked off during the Super Bowl. They had like an ad that ran in their local markets. But in tandem with that, they also introduced a couple of limited time promotions. And one of them is like a standalone 200 megabit per second home broadband service for $25 per month. That's good for a period of 24 months. It includes the price of the gateway. And they're really billing it as something that's competitive with the current plans being marketed by the fixed wireless access guys. And then the other one I thought was maybe a little more interesting, look from a forward view, is this new convergence package that they put out in the market that where they combine an unlimited line of Xfinity Mobile with that 200 megabit speed home broadband service for $50 per month, and again that's for 24 months. And New Street Research dug into it a little bit, and really when they put it all together, they thought that the bundle looked a little bit like the Spectrum One, which is a similar package that Charter introduced last year, with the idea that it'll help them gain and retain home broadband subscribers, but also accelerate mobile line growth. And we haven't quite seen exactly how much of an impact that has had yet. There wasn't much of an impact in Q4 for Charter, but they didn't really need it. It turned out, I mean, they added like a record 615,000 mobile lines in the period, but we'll find out, I think, when Q1 results roll around, what kind of a material impact we've got there. And we're also going to get a better picture on how the Comcast promotions panned out. So it's just kind of an interesting shift to see a little more activity going on with packaging and promotion with these services, in addition to all the 10G stuff that the cable guys are talking about right now.
Yeah, it's interesting too, the impact that fixed wireless has had because of the immediacy of fixed wireless. You can just get the device from a service provider or a store, take it home, or maybe through the mail, install it, link it to their network allegedly, and you're off and running. And so, cable has to find something that's going to create that that level of ease of use, I guess.
Yeah, and performance and pricing and all that together, and yeah, you bring the fixed wireless thing and Super Bowl. I think T-Mobile did have an ad. It was kind of funny. They had a truck that was, I think it was a combination of Spectrum and Xfinity. It was like Specfinity or something, and it was a combination. But they were trying to play up that as well, how easy it is to kind of get that service up and running.
Yeah, they did take a swipe, and rightly so. It is a in the consumer mindset. I mean, especially given cable's history, calling the cable company is the last thing you want to do. Even if you already have cable to your house, it just seems like it's going to be something that takes longer than it should and costs more than they tell you. And it's nice to see that they're pushing beyond that they're trying to, redefine that in the minds of consumers, and we'll see what happens. Yep. Mike, let's wrap up with you. What's happening in the wonderful world of wireless as far as you're concerned? That was easy to say.
Say Long Island. Long Island.
Long Island.
Worldwide wonderful web of wireless wonder. I know there's lots of stuff. So I wanted to talk about private wireless for this thing, and the reason is because private wireless has been a hot topic in the industry for a while, and they really say that it's a big deal because they sell all these radios to carriers like Verizon and T-Mobile, but the notion of private wireless means that they could sell a bunch of radios to Walmart or a bunch of radios to UPS. Like it creates the potential for having a lot of new customers for 5G equipment. And the reason I wanted to talk about it was because just in the past few weeks, we've gotten a lot of interesting deployments. Like we have, there's a company called NextWave that built a really big citywide private wireless network in New York City. Boingo announced a deployment of a private wireless network in Newark Airport Terminal A private LTE network. U.S. Cellular and Ericsson built a big private wireless network for the University of Wisconsin at Milwaukee. And then there's a utility company named Portland General Electric that has also inked a deal with a startup called Expedo to do private wireless stuff. And even Verizon recently announced a private wireless deal with the NFL to build a private wireless network in CBRS spectrum for NFL coaches to have private communications on the field. So there's a lot of stuff going on in private wireless right now. But the thing I would add is that it's actually, even though there's all this sort of noise around it, it's not reaching initial expectations. So even Verizon itself said that it had higher expectations for private wireless than it's reached now, and then also Del Oro Group, another analyst firm out there, they had to lower their expectations for the private wireless industry pretty substantially. They said it's not materializing as fast as they had expected, and so even though there's all these sort of announcements about deployments and sort of hints about stuff going on, it's still lower than a lot of initial expectations, which I think is interesting. So we'll keep an eye on this space. We'll see how it develops. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of sort of turmoil going on right now. Even there's a company called Anterix that this week reported earnings. They lease spectrum to utilities so that utilities can build their own private wireless networks, and they have stopped providing forecasts because the sales process has been so rough and bumpy, and they thought they'd have way more customers by now than they do. So they're just not going to provide any more forecasts from here on out for their sales. So it's a lot going on in that space right now.
There's some clear use cases for why people need private wireless, or at least companies. And I mean, the airline terminal is a great example. That's kind of a a separate part of the airport that probably needs its own, private wireless network, for use, not just to connect airport personnel and things like that, but the airlines themselves may need, that dedicated connectivity. Is it just, I wonder, is it just the complexity is like, that's why it's taking so long, just the kind of figuring out the relationships, because these companies that are doing this stuff are not, they're not in the wireless, they've never run wireless networks before. So suddenly they're kind of thrust
Hard to
into this
know.
arena.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a lot of reasons that go into that. I mean, the Boingo one in Newark, it's only in Terminal A, and they said it supports connections where the aircraft are parked, loaded, unloaded, refuel, boarded, and maintained. And so that's what that deployment is. But I think it's a good example because it's just in one terminal. It almost feels like a test versus a airport wide full on deployment. And so I think I think the sales cycle for these kinds of things is really long and complex, and there's lots of testing going on right now, but not a whole lot of like really clear, big, broad deployments and obvious customer, paying customers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to just chime in, kind of, Phil, you kind of covered it, but I was wondering if there are obvious use cases that feel like this could be a profitable sector.
I mean, it's all unique individual deployments. And so everybody can think of like, hey, wouldn't it be great if you did one in a mining operation, or, for the coach to coach communications for the NFL. Like there's lots of good use cases, but you have to, for that industry to scale. And I think what they had is just really broad expectations that a lot of these tests would turn into customer deployments right away. And I think that's what they're finding is like, you have to prove out each one of these use cases, provide a very clear ROI, and then get them actually to sign on, during a period of time when there's like tons of layoffs going on in big tech, and there's, fears of a recession, and no one really wants to invest heavily in, something that might not pay off for another 2, 3, 5, 10 years maybe. So I think it's just that like that sales process is sluggish at best.
And a lot of the use cases are centered around things like, better communication and better security and more of a, more control, but that doesn't necessarily put immediate revenue back into the, bottom line. It's not necessarily a new source of income for these companies that are installing it. And so I can also see how these projects get kicked down the road a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, if
we'll do that in Q2. Right now, we gotta focus on making our number.
Right. Yeah. If you're running an airport, you can already run an airport. Like they've already run airports. They've been running airports for a while without private wireless. So maybe we can do it for another year or two.
Newark Terminal A, I would say they're it's half and half. That's where American Airlines is in Terminal A. And I invite everyone to walk through the security lines and to take a tour of the place sometime. It's definitely going back in time.
Yeah, so is riding their train in between terminals.
Yes,
you have to pedal a little bit to get it going.
Yeah,
little Flintstone power.
Yeah.
I think we're going to get everybody in New Jersey upset. Is that we might have to move to where?
Long Island.
There we go.
Or Mabin.
Right. Well, thanks for all of that. Let's see. So we will. We have coming up Monday, the President's Day holiday in the U.S. For a flash poll for everyone. I wanted to quickly know what's your favorite day of the week to have off during the work week.
I like Mondays off. I'm a fan.
Mondays are good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would almost prefer Fridays, but I'll take a Monday.
I like Friday because things are kind of slowing down. Then anyway, Monday everyone's like in a panic.
Yeah,
but this podcast is a great example of that, by the way.
Yeah. I'm on the Monday side though, because Monday has just that feel to it of dread. It's just kind of nice when it's like Friday is more of an upbeat day because you're like, well, it's the end of the week, and if you have like Monday off, you're like, wow, okay, that makes me even more upbeat.
That's right. Just have that shorter week to look forward to. My favorite holiday, as far as how it's situated in the calendar, is always the Thanksgiving weekend because your Friday is essentially starting on Wednesday afternoon. And you've got those 2 days off, even though the holiday is just one day. Everybody takes the second day off, and that's just fantastic. So maybe in the future, maybe we could figure out a way to have President's Day kind of on a Tuesday, so that we kind of have to take the Monday off.
Well, how about President's Days?
Yeah, we have had many presidents.
Yeah.
Let's
It's like, why
celebrate almost all of
stop
them.
in one day? I mean, come on.
Much better idea.
I like President's Day because there's usually like a good furniture sale. So if you need like a new couch, new mattress, I don't know why we celebrate with deals on furniture to celebrate our presidents, but I'm here for
capitalism. Be capitalism.
I haven't noticed
Capitalism,
that.
yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Capitalism.
Our country was built on the pursuit of freedom and happiness, and also a comfortable place to sit.
It's not even true.
Any of that.
Not true. Our country loves hostile architecture, so that homeless people can't sit down in public.
Yeah, like the
Thank you for coming to my
benches
TED
with
Talk.
the armrest in the middle. Like,
Yes,
sorry,
exactly.
I'm laying down here.
Yeah.
All the spikes everywhere.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, no. If
don't let me get started on
you
this.
hear this
Long Island.
and you work for a city that engages in that kind of nonsense, guess what? Like, no one likes it. Not just you know, not just the people you're trying not to get to sleep on benches, but like people who want to just sit down and read the paper. They hate those things.
Yeah.
I hate those things.
I know.
You're being annoying, and there's no need for it.
Agreed.
Anyway, on that lovely note, we'll encourage you all to fly into Newark, go visit Long Island. Did I say it right?
No, Long Island. You have to emphasize on guy.
Okay.
Emphasize.
There's like kind of a German like
Long Island.
in the middle.
Long
Island.
Island. Yeah.
However, or anywhere you want, but make sure you have a comfortable place to sit down this President's Day weekend. And that'll wrap it up for this edition of the Notebook Dump, closing out the week ending Friday, February 17th, 2023. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.